Hello, CSCI-150 students. This is a recording for Python. It's an overview of the Thonny editor, which is the place where we're going to be writing Python code in order to execute it. It's very similar to Raptor, except that it focuses on another language called Python, which is what we're going to be using going forward in CSCI-150. Your instructor will show you at a later time how to set up Thonny and launch it. So for now, assuming that you are able to do that, you will get a view like the one you're seeing right in front of you with Thonny, the word Thonny at the top, a new untitled document that I haven't saved, some buttons at the top and over here, as well as two components. This is the editor area. This is where we're going to be writing the Python code and saving it. And down here is called the shell area. This is where we provide input, look at the output, similar to the master console in Raptor. And then in the Python reading for today, which by the way, you're supposed to do before you view this video, always do the Zybook readings before you do the Python videos. This is an interactive interpreter referred to in the Zybook reading. There's also a third important component that you should have visible. You might not see it right away, especially the first time you launch it, but once you add it to your view, you should be able to see it going forward. That one is the variable view. It shows you the different variables in your program. And then if you don't see that right away, go to View, Variables, and then it'll display it over here. You'll see a bunch of variables that these are actually not from now, of course. Obviously, I haven't created any variables. These are saved from a previous execution. So we should be able to clear them later on. Now, another important aspect well, we'll come to the editor. For the shell part, again, we're going to be using it mostly for input and output, but you could create any variables and run any Python code you want on the shell. So for example, I'm writing x is equal to 5. Okay, now I've got a variable over here called x that has the value 5. I can say y is equal to 6. Yeah. Notice that these are assignment statements. We're using the equal sign, but these are assignment statements which set the value on the right to the variable on the left. It always works like that. Whatever the value of whatever is on the right is now stored in the variable in the left. So you cannot say 5 is equal to x. So now if I say print x, that would give me the value 5. And if I were to say, you could resize this anytime, print y, that should give me the value 6. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is assignments always put the value of the value or variable on the right in the variable on the left. So if I were to say x is equal to y, okay, now what I'm setting is the value of y should be in x. So if I say print x, now I'm going to get the value 6 because that's y's value. So this is completely different than saying y is equal to x. And of course, the value of y has not changed at all. You can always clear this area to start anew. If you want to create a program, you typically write it over here line after line. This is unlike the shell, which executes every line. When you write a program, now you could do the whole thing in a single file. So I have a few lines of code that I'm just going to copy paste in here. So I've got a variable hourly wage, set to the value 20. So this is how much the pay rate is per hour for some person. The weekly salary for that person would be the hourly wage multiplied by 40, and then I'm printing the weekly salary. So now if I were to run it, first thing Python is going to ask me is to save the program, and this is important. So I'm going to save it and give it a meaningful name. First sample Python program. Okay, and it's important that you navigate to where you want to save it properly. In my case, I am happy here, but you could browse your computer and save it somewhere else. So I'm going to save it in this folder. Okay, save. Now, once you run the program, it's going to give you the output, which is 800. Obviously, 20 times 800 is the correct output. A few things to keep in mind. In Python, we avoid using, and actually in any programming language, we should avoid using variables that don't make sense. The variable name has to make sense. It should be, anybody reading the program should be able to understand it. Names of variables, very similar to Raptor. They're any sequence of letters, uppercase or lowercase, underscores, and numbers, but they cannot start with a number. The recommendation is that you always start with a letter, and they are case sensitive. So if I were to say over here, print weekly salary with a capital S, my program is going to tell me that weekly salary with capital S is not defined. This is known as an error in your Python program. So that's something very, very important to keep in mind. One more thing that I'd like you to do when you launch, after you launch Thonny. By the way, anytime you see an asterisk after the name, it means you've made changes to the program and you haven't saved. So you should always be doing file save anytime you make a change. Or if you want, you could press Control S and that would save your program. The other important thing is to show line numbers, because many times your errors will indicate the line number. Now you can click on it and it'll take you to it. But if you want to know what number that is or what line that is in your program, you can display line numbers by going to Tools, Options, and then at the in the Editor tab, there are multiple tabs over here. In the Editor tab at the bottom, it says Show Line Numbers. This is important. And then now you get to see your line numbers. That should be all for your first recording. We will move on to other topics in Python in the near future. Thank you much.